In today's challenge I'm going to be producing a full techno track with all sounds coming from Serum. Now Serum is of course a well-known software synthesizer. It's a wavetable synthesizer, which makes it quite different from virtual analog synths that I've used before, as well as from FM synths. Serum is a very versatile synthesizer with lots of modulation capabilities and built-in effects. So I'm confident that it will be able to deliver a wide range of sounds, but the question is whether these will fit the style of music that I'm trying to produce. So without further ado, let's get started. I've created an Ableton Live set with 10 tracks on here, and they all have a Serum loaded up on them like this, just a basic initialized patch. And let's get started with making a kick drum here. I'll create a MIDI clip with some low quarter notes. And let's turn to the oscillator here. Well, this is where the wavetable synth really shines. It has all these different oscillator types. I'm going to go for this analog BD sine wave. First, let's shape the amp envelope. I'll increase the release to something like this. Now looking at the oscillator, this actually has a randomized phase, which means that it starts at a different place in the sine wave each time a note plays. I'm going to dial that to 0 to get a very consistent sound. Next I'm going to add a pitch envelope, so I'm taking envelope 2 here, just dragging and dropping to the coarse tuning. And looking in the matrix here, the type I want it to be one way, the modulation is one way, and I'll dial back the sustain and the decay. And already it's sounding like a kick drum. And now all I have to do is adjust this to taste. I think this sounds okay for now. I can add some distortion. There are tons of distortion types here. I'm not going to go through them all, but I think this one sounds pretty decent. Maybe this is a bit too much, but with the mix control here, we can dial it back a little bit, the amount. Something like this is fine. Let's create a sub bass. So on to the next track. Just gonna draw a MIDI clip. Let's select an oscillator. I think the basic mini, I think that stands for Minimoog, has some nice oscillator sounds in there. And I'm just gonna draw in some notes here. This is the saw. Let's go for a more triangle. This is the shark tooth, I think. This is the square. I guess this is more like a sine. Actually a triangle. I meant to say triangle. It's a nice beefy subwave. Just some more or less random notes to get this low bass rumble sound. And let's go for a 24 dB filter here. I'm gonna adjust the amp envelope a little bit. Now what I can do is use the pitch to modulate the filter here so it actually moves with the note pitch, and that is done with the filter key track button here. And you can actually see it moving, which is a nice touch. Okay, that's 2 tracks down. Now let's make something of a main synth riff. I'm thinking an FM type sound. So I will go for the basic shapes here. You get a sine wave as standard, and again basic shapes. And now I'm going to use one to modulate the other. So we're here with warp. I can do FM from B. So now oscillator A is going to be frequency modulated by B. I'm gonna set the random phase to 0 again, so we get a consistent sound. And now increase the FM amount. And of course, by tuning the oscillator B differently, we get different effects. Some weird harmonics like this, that's actually pretty cool. I want to know what this sounds like with reverb, so let's add some. Pretty cool sound. I'll filter out some of the low of the reverb. Let's go for a basic techno-y pattern here. Let's adjust the amp envelope. And one thing we can also do is use an envelope to modulate the amount of frequency modulation actually. Again, just simply dragging and dropping this. Let's lower the sustain and the decay time. I forgot to adjust the tempo at the start. This is way too slow. Let's go for something like 130. That seems to suit this, yeah. Now there's also a delay built in here. That's before the reverb. Let's see what that does. Let's set the quarter notes. Let's make that dotted eighth notes and go for a ping pong delay. Okay, moving on to the next track. Let's make something like a noisy rhythm thing. I'm gonna create some quarter notes again, but longer quarter notes. Serum has this very interesting noise section that actually uses wavetables or samples as well. And let's select one. These air cans are nice, they're interesting. But there's also sampled noise from synthesizers. Let's use this one and let's apply some LFO here to the level. And actually a very nice feature is that there are some basic LFO shapes already here, like the sidechain one. So basically a little built-in LFO tool. If you've seen any of my videos, I use that a lot, basically on every track. Okay, that's a bit extreme. Something like this. And now some filtering with a high pass. Need to turn that on. I'll go for a dual filter, high and a low pass, low high 12 for instance, and that turns this control into the high pass frequency. I'm thinking maybe there are some more interesting sounds here, something like a crackle maybe. Let's see if we have that here. Mic bleed. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's actually what I was looking for. Okay, now let's make a drone sound. New track, I'm gonna create a longer loop here, make it something like 8 bars. And for a wave, there's so much choice here. Let's just pick something, cream with a K. No idea what that is. I don't like it. A lot of these waves do have this kind of similar weird digital sound that I don't really like. And these voice-like things is also not my cup of tea. But yeah, let's not complain too much. There's plenty of sound potential in here. Maybe just an analog thing. Matrix C64. Anyway, let's just try something here. Like in the previous video, I'm gonna make a dissonant sounding chord here. Let's put it through the filter. And generous helping of reverb. I'm gonna go for a long decay, a big reverb. Yeah, again, I'm gonna use a dual filter so I can filter out some of the low as well. And let's put an LFO on there to vary that a little bit. I'm gonna not sync it to the tempo, make a slow LFO here. And let's take a second LFO and do some panning of the oscillator. So drag and drop it over here to pan. That's actually too much, something like this. And now I want to add a sidechain-like effect to the overall volume. And actually you cannot put automation on the master volume, but I found a workaround. First, let me just select the sidechain here. So the workaround basically is to use one of the effects because that comes after the reverb. That can be after the reverb. So I'm gonna put the compressor after the reverb and actually the compressor gain here. And that's going to be the sidechain pumping now. Okay, now for some percussion. I'm going to select the noise oscillator here, choose a noise source. I could go for, I don't know, this snare rim thing. I'm gonna create a pattern here, just simple 16th notes. But the trick here is I'm going to randomize the velocities and can apply the velocity. And I can apply the velocity as a modulation source here. So, for instance, for the volume, for the level. So velocity to level. Yeah, let's adjust the envelope a bit, the amp envelope. Another thing that I could do is make the decay longer depending on the velocity. It's also a nice trick to add some liveliness to the percussion. I'm not so sure about this rim sound. This is actually cool, this kick sound. Let's see how it goes with the rest. Yeah, I'm gonna filter that also a little bit, this one. This is also a very interesting effect, this hyperdimension. A unison and sort of a reverb-like thing. Something like that. Okay, let's make a hi-hat sound. Again, I'm going to use a noise source here. Maybe just some analog noise, the Juno 106. And a simple pattern where every second eighth note hits. Typical house techno hi-hat. Let's run that through the filter as well to remove some of the low end. That's better. Maybe something like this. What else? Now, unfortunately, Serum does not have a randomize function that I know of, which is a feature that I really like in the other soft synths that I use a lot, like Silent One and Microtonic. But of course, we can have a look at the patches. There are so many patches included here, and a lot of them are definitely not my style, but let's just see if there is something in there that can be useful. Effects. Maybe something noisy. There are lots of pads here as well. Sad. Miscellaneous sounds. A kick drum. That would have been good to know. Could have just used that instead of synthesizing my own. Good impression of an 808 snare, actually. Is there also a clap in there? Like an 808 clap or something? Let's synthesize a clap. Yeah. So I'm going to initialize the patch again. Let's go for noise. Just a standard, something like this. I'm going to make a quick pattern here. Something. This will do for now. First, let's shape the sound with the filter. Again, a high pass. It's already sounding a little bit like a clap, but what is missing is this sort of stuttering thing. A clap is actually a bunch of notes in succession. What I can do here is try to emulate that with an LFO. Make it very fast and put that on the volume, on the level here. Let's add some distortion. It does sound a clap-like, clappish, and some reverb on it. Yeah, I mean it's not gonna win any sound design awards, but hey. By the way, you see sweat stains forming on my t-shirt. It's very hot here in here, and I cannot turn on the air conditioning because it makes too much noise. So I'm suffering here to bring you this video, but hey, it's all in a day's work. Yeah, let's do something like a special effect thing. Let's see, look at the presets here. Oh, this is actually a nice one. I'm actually gonna use that. Oh, that's cool. Like a horror sound or something. So I'm gonna record that in. Not sure if we're gonna use all of that. It's a little bit cliche sounding, but you know, okay. Another one, let's do another one. Maybe some special effects as well. Just having some fun with the presets here. See if I can make them work in the context of this track idea that I have. Debbie Downer. That's also pretty cool. Like droplets in a cave or something. Let's add some reverb here. Yeah. So that's 10 tracks. I think I have enough now for arranging phase. So I'm just gonna build this out into an arrangement and I will see you on the other side of that. Okay, so the arrangement is done. I've taken the sounds, the parts that I made and put them onto the timeline and made a full-length techno track out of all the ingredients. So now let's do a playthrough, and while we do that, I will explain a little bit about all the choices I made, the mixing and the arranging stuff that I did. So let's just get going here. First of all, I grouped the kick and the sub bass and put a high pass filter on it. That's being activated here, where the clips are white for the sort of DJ style high pass thing. We start off very basic with the main FM synth here and the noise rhythm as well as the drone. The drone is slowly fading in. I tried to keep the effects as minimal as possible because I wanted to use the effects built into Serum. I have used some effects on other tracks. Now what's getting started is this percussion sound. It's actually a bit loud. And then every once in a while we get the clicks here, the so-called clickers that you just heard. Those are being sent to a dub delay here on the send effect. I also put a Valhalla room reverb that a few tracks use, and there's this echo that's mostly for the FM synth. I actually chose to use the echo instead of the built-in delay in Serum, which for some reason I don't really like that so much. Okay, now we get the hi-hat part coming in. Again, these clickers that are coming back intermittently. And in a little while we will get these claps here. They're actually in the wrong position. I tried to do something differently there. But let's just keep it that way. Now, I needed a cymbal sound and I didn't make one in the sound creation phase, so I did a little trick here. I set up a send effect to be here with the dub syndicate delay on the echo device here. That's going through a Valhalla room with a very long decay and a mix all set to wet. Then it's going through an LFO tool to give it some fake sidechain, and then it's being high passed by an EQ3 here, and that sort of creates a cymbal sound, and you can see the automation here. So that's actually a cheekily sort of an extra sound I made. Then there's this horror drone sound. One of the presets I used, it had a very long attack time. I set that to 0, and it's repeating every 4 bars, and with some volume automation here in the breakdown, climaxing here, and then we go back into this drop with the claps again. I mean, kind of claps, clappish I called it. Okay, so the percussion was gone for a little bit. That's joining again, and throughout the track you can see the automation here on the drone. Actually, what I forgot to mention about the drone, I changed the oscillator to this FM splat. It's a sound I like a little bit more than the oscillator I had selected previously, and I also adjusted the filter a little bit. And now we get this horror sound again, slowly fading in. And as you can see as well, during these breakdowns, the dub delay is starting the send here, increasing. Give this ringing sound. There's actually some decent presets on the standard live devices. You can do a lot with them. Again, the clickers they're returning at set intervals. It's like every 12 bars, I think, or 24. I think 24 bars. 20. Okay, so like a sort of weird, predictable and unpredictable at the same time when those happen. And that's in contrast with these claps that just start at you hear at the start of every 16 bar block here. Now the last breakdown, I decided to leave out the kick and the sub completely. Again, this is a little bit repetitive. It's the same idea as the previous breakdowns. I guess I kind of ran out of ideas, and this is one of those things that I would put more work into when I decide, if I were to decide to work on this track further. If I wanted to release it, then I would do some more work to get some variation. And this is always the big thing in techno. You want it to have that constant drive, but at the same time you want it to be always shifting, always a little bit different, to keep the listener's interest, to keep the ears sort of on their toes and not become too predictable and too robotic. And I would definitely classify this as a very robotic arrangement right now. But again, that's something that could be fixed later if I want to work on it some more. Okay, so we're winding down now. The open hi-hat sound stopped. The drone is fading out, and the main synth is gonna start fading out as well. And at the end I put 8 extra bars, 4 extra bars of just the FM synth, the noise rhythm, the drone, and these claps and clickers as the final outro thing. And that's the track. To be honest, I'm not very excited about this one. I think I've done better ones in the past, but that's not the point. The point was, can I make a complete techno track using only sounds from Serum? And I think that worked reasonably well. So what do you think? Is this a successful experiment or not? Do you like this track? Is Serum a good synthesizer for techno? I would love to hear your opinion about that in the comments. Also, please like the video if you enjoyed it, if you found it useful or entertaining or both, and consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. In any case, thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.